Hello everyone, I'm Pat Collins and welcome to a special edition of Arts in the City. It's all about the Tonys. Four very different musicals are competing for the coveted Tony Award. In Dear Evan Hansen, a lonely teenager goes to extreme lengths to gain the acceptance of his popular classmates. In Come From Away, stranded passengers on 9/11 are befriended by the good people of Gander, Newfoundland. A weatherman lives the same day over and over in Groundhog Day, and Russian aristocrats with complicated love lives are the protagonists in Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812. It has the most nominations, a total of 12, and was inspired by Tolstoy's War and Peace.
I was so swept away by it and immediately had like the revelation that this would make a perfect musical. And what I loved about it was it kind of tells these two stories of crisis in parallel, which felt very much like a musical often has kind of two stories that, you know, converge alongside each other. But in this case, one was an epic love story, you know, so Natasha falling for this rogue Anatole and breaking off her engagement with Andre. But the other story, kind of the B story, was actually this more philosophical story, the story about Pierre and God, and Pierre and having an existential life crisis.
That immersiveness was never the intention. It always was, how do we tell this story? And in particular, like the fact that the actors look directly into the audience's eyes is, for me, the same. That is the translation to theater of when you're reading a book. And it's just you in that novel.
This creative team is incredibly collaborative. And that is in no way to say that they are not orchestrating it. They're very much in charge of what is going on, but they hire artists who we all come from very different backgrounds, and we're all sort of we all write as well, and a lot of us have been in bands, and you know, they take from every sort of facet that they can to mine what could be the best sort of potential.
I think the show is much more about the need to be a part of something and the need to find a way to love yourself. And Evan's extraordinary and difficult and surprising and suspenseful journey towards self-acceptance.
Social media, I believe, is the outlet. And in the show, we see the positives that can come from it and the negatives as well. I think the show is more of a look at a generation or an era and where we are in human
evolution.
Yes, as lacking of empathy.
I feel like our show, we often think of it as a 9/12 show. I feel like the audience watches our show, the story we're telling, and they scroll it right next to their own experience of that week. And people have incredible memories, just moment by moment, of what they were doing. And I think they've got their own stories, so they're experiencing our events through the lens of their own experience of that week. I think our cast is incredibly transformative at every moment. They're capable of being a person from Gander who spent their whole life there one moment, and then a person from Africa, a person from the South, a person from England. And the dialect work is fiendishly difficult in our show. I think we decided there's 63 different dialects in the show. So that's been really extraordinary. And Kelly Devine, the choreographer, has been a great partner in crime. She and I together really developed the staging.
Stylistically, for Come From Away, I think the most important thing was to really sort of tap into the psyche of, you know, maybe the passengers that were stranded on the plane and how the Newfoundlanders were reacting, to keep it authentic. So that was sort of my first in with it, and to keep it sort of naturalistic because this is based on a real event and it's based on real people.
From where I was as a kid to be here now and experience this 3 times in a row is kind of an insane, beyond my dream.
The 4 plays contending for a Tony are Lucas Nassar Doll's House Part 2, Paula Vogel's Indecent.
Of all the boys I've known, and I've known some, until I first met you, I was lonesome. And then you came in sight, tear my heart grew light, and this old world seemed new to me.
J.T. Rogers' Oslo, which dramatizes the secret negotiations which led to the 1993 accords between Israel and the PLO, and Lynn Nottage's Pulitzer Prize winner, Sweat.
Well, I spent about 2.5 years doing research in a city called Reading, Pennsylvania, which is really quite a lovely city. Physically, it has a great deal of beauty, and it's right at the end of the Rust Belt in Pennsylvania. I think for me, the big takeaway of the play is that we're not really in conversation as a culture.
Lynn has done something really powerful because I feel like it ends on a painfully hopeful note. But how do we get ourselves out of this? By figuring out how to take care of each other, how to see each other, how to hear each other.
I would like my play to win Best Play.
And are you happy, Emmy?
I am.
And what makes you happy?
All sorts of things. I have enough money. I have enough food. Physically, I'm fine. There aren't any problems with my health.
That's good.
I actually think in a lot of ways things turned out better because you weren't around. I think I'm better at life because of it. I had a lot more responsibility. I had to deal with some difficult truths about life at an earlier age than you usually have to deal with those types of things. I feel bad for the kids who growing up had the usual life. I feel special.
At the end of Henrik Ibsen's A Doll's House, Nora leaves her husband and her children, essentially to go off into the world and find out who she is and what she actually wants out of life. The play picks up 15 years later with a knock at the door, and Nora's come back and she has a problem, which is that the husband, Torvald, that she left, never filed the divorce, has now put her in some substantial legal trouble. And so she needs help fixing that problem. A lot has changed, but surprisingly little has changed given that you're imagining a century has passed.
I raised your kids. You should be coming in here. First words out of your mouth should have been, thank you, Anne-Marie. Thank you for abandoning your own life and your own child and raising mine so I can go off and do my little thing.
Everything about the play is attractive to me. It's the fact that it's so unexpected. It's a delight every night to hear the audience hear the play because nobody knows what's coming next. And that's because of the way it's constructed. And it's so fresh and innovative and fun. It's fleet and fast and witty. It's just great fun to be inside. And add to the mix then, you know, it was directed by a brilliant director and it has this kick-ass company of actors that I get to work with every night.
Shimon Peres is a giant among men, like a father to me, but my God, the man takes forever to get to his point. Finally he said, come home, Uri. Your country needs you. I need you. How could I say no? And now he has selected me to do this.
In the Best Revival of a Musical category, Falsettos took us back in time to New York City in the 70s and 80s. Miss Saigon returned with its 2 star-crossed lovers and a larger helicopter, and the divine Miss M, Bette Midler, led the parade with 10 nominations for Hello, Dolly.
Oh my God, that's Bette. I think that'd probably be the title of it, and then there'd be a ... and then it'd be like, oh my God, that's still Bette. That'd be it.
Love is blind. Love can
song, tell a million stories.
Her name is Trina. She's married to Marvin.
Played by Christian Borle.
Played by Christian Borle, the great Christian Borle. The son, Jason, played by Anthony Rosenthal. And she finds that her husband is going to go off with his authentic self and fall in love with a man. This takes place, of course, in the late 1970s into the early 80s, so it's a bit unheard of. She has no idea how to handle it. She, of course, wants to protect her son and keep the family together, but all the while she is falling apart.
I'd love to play Marvin one day in falsettos. I mean, clearly I can't get enough of falsettos, I guess.
It hurts not to love him. It hurts when love fades. It's hard when part of him is off playing family charades. Ask me if I need him. Get him out of my way.
She may be young, but she's not stupid. She's not naive. You know, she knows how to learn and take it, and she's gritty, and she's a beautiful tigress, I think, and I think people forget that.
Lillian Hellman's The Little Foxes, Noel Coward's Present Laughter, John Grier's 6 Degrees of Separation, and August Wilson's Jitney are the 4 plays in the Best Revival category.
Call, sir.
Stories like Jitney are always incredibly relevant because we're talking about the working class Americans. We're talking about salt of the earth, blue collar people who can make something out of nothing. And then black people have had to do that since we've been in this country. Reinvent ourselves, make something out of nothing. And so to see these people find the joy of life even in the struggle. And what's universal is the humanity in these people. The father-son relationship, the husband-wife or future husband-wife relationship with Youngblood and Rena, the camaraderie of people who work together and spend that more time together with each other than they do at home with their other families.
Is there a moment in the play you think, oh, this speaks to me, you know, in such a very particular way?
So there was something about the father-son thing, and it's not similar in my own relationship with my father, but the chasm that can sometimes exist between father and son, because you're different generations, different ideas, different ways of looking at things. So when I came to that scene, I was always thinking of my own relationship with my father and how that is such a difficult terrain, you know, to sometimes. And for me to have the relationship I had with my son in the play, to then try to deal with 20 years of absence, me and him and me, of not seeing each other, not talking to each other, in the midst of doing it in the scene, was quite difficult.
So what you gonna do with the rest of your life now that you done ruined it?
Hey, Pop, I just stopped by to say hi.
Okay, can't get no job. Who gonna hire you? You got a mark on you a foot wide. They can see you coming. You just took your life, threw it away like it wasn't worth nothing.
I don't want all this. I don't want to hear about my life being ruined. I just stopped by to say hi. I don't want this. I done paid my debt.
You don't even know where your debt begins.
Well, I know where it ended. It ended after I did them 20 years. I don't owe nobody nothing. They tried to give me that parole 5 years ago, and I turned it down because I didn't want to owe nobody nothing. I didn't want nobody looking after me, telling me what to do, asking me questions about my life. I walk in here to say hi, and you start telling me my life is ruined. How I'm gonna get a job? I don't want that, Pop. I'm a grown man.
The greatest plays in the world are written about these same things that are in Jitney. And what we have to do is make sure we magnify them and make them personal and human. Because people can always play around these things, but to actually live these things. And that's why I wanted the best actors I could find. And I was fortunate enough to find them.
Can't you tell when you're being admired?
Oscar said I bored Mr. Marshall, but he admired you. He told me so.
What did he say?
He said, I hope your sister-in-law will come to Chicago. Chicago will be at her feet. He said, the women would bow to your manners and the gentlemen to your looks.
Did he?
They're so great, both of them, and they're strong. I mean, their techniques are so strong, and they're so solid, and such wonderful women that for all of us playing with them, it's been a pleasure. At first, it's about, okay, you know, you just want to be present for them and play your interpretation of the role, but playing with the ladies in different parts is actually, my Horace is different from night to night.
And you, my dear, you, one of the most depressing, melancholy actresses on the English stage, where would you be now if I hadn't forced you to give up acting and start writing?
If I didn't really know that Noel Coward wrote this for himself, I would think that he wrote this for Kevin Kline. And it is that marriage of extraordinary actor and extraordinary role with the most extraordinary company and creative team that is lifting this experience of present laughter and giving us so much life in the audience.
2 young emerging talents and 3 beloved veteran stars are competing for the Best Actress in a Musical award. Denée Benton makes her Broadway debut in Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812. Eva Noblezada has the titular role in Miss Saigon. Patti LuPone and Christine Ebersole respectively play Helena Rubinstein and Elizabeth Arden in War Paint. And Bette Midler is back where she belongs as Dolly Levi.
Well, I figured with Bette that we would sell some tickets, but I don't think any of us realized the perfect storm of her, this role, and this show, and the time we're in. There's something about people need a show like this, and this show, the production, Bette, delivers so hugely that it really is, as I thought it would be, a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
I think I'm excited for a real opportunity and platform to talk about why this moment is important and why this role is important and why me and my aesthetic and everything that this means, me getting to play Natasha and then getting honored for it, and what it can mean for little black girls to see me getting this. And hopefully they will get to have some more confidence than I did when I was their age.
I'm gonna be really cheesy and do Movie in my mind, because I've played this so many a times in my head. Just, you know, little girl's dream, and I'm still getting over it. I'm still like letting it sink in, so it's really incredible.
Wipe away the mask of makeup, just to talk, not to spur, man to man, queen to queen on a par, standing face to
The men vying for the Tony in the Best Actor in a Musical category are Christian Borle in Falsettos.
How can I express how confused am I by our happiness? I can't eat breakfast. I barely tie my shoe. What more can I do?
Josh Groban making his Broadway debut in Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812, and Andy Karl as Groundhog Day's weatherman, plus David Hyde Pierce in Hello, Dolly, and Ben Platt, the young star of Dear Evan Hansen.
That's all that we needed to be, and the rest of the world falls away, and the rest of the world falls away.
We just watched it all unfold and sort of freaked out and cried, and it was incredibly surreal, and you know, you think about what that moment might be like, but it's never as incredible as it is in reality. It was wonderful, and to get to share with those people I'll never forget that.
The roots of the show, Dolly is a widow. Irene Malloy, the other lead character, is a widow. Horace, his wife passed away. And the show is ultimately about these people who have gone through the ultimate loss that you can go through, how they each transcend it, how they each are able to move on. And the show doesn't wear that on its sleeve, it's pure fun. But I believe that it affects an audience and has always affected an audience because its roots go deep into real loss and real hope.
It's the last song that I sing in the show, written by Tim Minchin, called Seeing You, and that's being able to see the world through other people's eyes. And that couldn't be a more huge lesson for me personally, but also with theater in general. It's being able to experience everything that people are watching you, but you also have to see what they see, and also the world as it is right now. To be able to see through other people's eyes is very important. I'm having, high-level esoteric experiences right now in the theater, and it's great.
I was over the moon, and not only for my nomination, but just when I started to see so many coming in for Great Comet, a show that has been on such an amazing journey.
The 5 women nominees competing in the Best Actress in a Play category are Cate Blanchett in The Present, Jennifer Ely for her role in Oslo.
2 boys facing each other, one in uniform, one in jeans, weapons in hand, hate flowing between them. But their faces, and we both see this, their faces are exactly the same. The same fear, the same desperate desire to be anywhere but here, to not be doing this to this other boy. There, in that moment, for us, it began.
Sally Field as Amanda Wingfield in The Glass Menagerie.
I grew up in California, so my first memories of the Tony Awards were from a great distance, where I would, watch it on TV. They would be sort of, shuffled off on one weird network or another until finally, over the last years, I don't know how many years now, I would say 10 or so years, it is what it is, because it's the most fun show to watch, because it is about performing, and there they are, all performing.
Laurie Metcalf as Nora in A Doll's House Part 2.
No, I don't believe that you are angry, that you're in it, that you're inside the feeling of feeling angry. I think you're just outside of it, looking at it like, oh, there's some interesting thing. You don't act!
And Laura Linney in The Little Foxes.
I only have contempt for you. I've always had.
From the very first?
I think so.
I was in love with you. But why did you marry me?
I was lonely when I was young.
You were lonely?
Not the way people usually mean. I was lonely for all the things I wasn't going to get. Everything in this house was so busy. There was so little place for what I wanted. I wanted the world. And then, Papa died and left the money to Ben and Oscar.
The men vying for the Tony and the leading role in a play are Dennis Arndt in Heisenberg.
What's this music?
Johann Sebastian Bach.
Is it?
Sonata for violin and piano in B minor.
Is it?
It is, yes.
Great. It's very plinky plunky.
You're not listening to it.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not. You can hear it, but that's not listening to it. That's different from listening.
Chris Cooper as the husband in A Doll's House Part 2.
You don't get angry.
Of course I do.
Maybe once you
Right now I feel angry.
Right now you're angry.
You're damn right I am.
Corey Hawkins, the young con artist in 6 Degrees of Separation. Jefferson Mays, Oslo's co-negotiator.
Well, you will achieve nothing because your negotiating model is fundamentally flawed.
Exactly, that's what I keep saying.
You are trapped in a procedure that is rigid, impersonal,
yes,
and
yes, I agree completely,
trust.
but this is what the Americans want us to do.
Yes, and so you must do it, but also establish a second channel, built on the exact opposite model, not grand pronouncements between governments, but intimate discussions between people, held somewhere isolated totally, where you and the PLO can meet alone and talk.
And Kevin Kline, returning to Broadway for the first time in 10 years in Present Laughter.
We stopped you in the nick of time from playing Peer Gynt.
I still maintain I would have been magnificent as Peer Gynt.
Above all, we stop you from overacting.
You have now gone too far. I think you had better go away somewhere.
I've only just come back.
Monica! Monica, come here at once.
What on earth's the matter?
Have you or have you not seen me overact?
Frequently.
It's a conspiracy. I knew it!
As a matter of fact, you're overacting now.
Thank you for being with us, and a reminder, Tony Award winners are announced Sunday, June 11th. I'm Pat Collins for Arts in the City.